Hi, I'm Nicky McKenna. I run WSI Digital Advisors with my husband Peter. We help businesses get found online.
Hi, Nikki.
Hiya.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I was just looking at this stats from BBC about AI and jobs. I went through the report from 2023. It says artificial intelligence AI could replace equivalent of 300 million full-time jobs. And that was a report by investment bank Goldman Sachs. That was 2023. And in 2024, it says AI to hit 40% of jobs and worsen inequality. In 2025, another report says job openings fell by 5.8% to 718,000 between May to July across nearly all industries, according to the Office for National Statistics.
Yeah.
Do you think there's something going on there with AI?
There's absolutely, it's changing things fundamentally. On a positive note, the changes that it's making in the medical world are unbelievable. It's groundbreaking stuff. It's going to save lives, which I think is incredible. At the other end of the spectrum, I think it's going to fundamentally change a lot of entry-level jobs because for years, people coming out of college taking up entry-level jobs have complained about how boring and repetitive they can be. Well, boring and repetitive is now increasingly being done by AI. So what entry-level jobs look like is going to fundamentally change. We have to bring young people into the workplace. Yeah, we have to grow young people through the layers. Otherwise, they're never going to become big. But I think at the moment we're in a bit of a crisis point as to what skills do we need young people to be learning. And I think what's really interesting is if you think about sort of Gen Z, they've been talking about Gen Z being, the first generation who has never known life without computers. Well, the next generation will be that they'll never have known life without AI. So things are really going to change.
That's interesting. But why entry level?
Particularly when you're starting out in a job, you're learning the grassroots of what it is that you do, and so you learn a lot of that through repetition. And historically, when you go into a new role, you're given the research tasks, the setting things up kind of tasks, I suppose the tasks that get repeated because you then understand what that groundwork is like. For as you grow, you understand the grassroots of what it is that you do. But yeah, it's those tasks that AI is replacing. So we've got to find different ways of teaching people entering into a workplace how they're controlling the AI tools rather than how they're controlling the computer.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's a very important point because I was also looking at the interview on the website, your most recent interview about how AI is replacing copywriters. And it got me thinking, AI would need people to prompt it.
Yeah.
But can we really say that AI would replace people if it needs people to get it to do something?
It cannot fundamentally replace people. I'm very much in the world of there needs to be a human in the room. Even if you go back to computer programs that were calculating algorithms to calculate demand. I mean, demand planning computers have been around for donkey's years. You still need somebody to put the right criteria in, and somebody who understands enough about it to be able to go, that doesn't look right.
True.
And the same is going to be the place with AI. You need to be skilled about asking it the right questions, but you also need to be skilled to understand and know enough about your subject to understand when it comes out and you go, that's not right.
Absolutely. And I think that's where entry-level people would find it challenging because, like you said, you need to know when it's not right. If I were to be entry-level, how would I know exactly when I'm still learning?
Yeah. It's interesting though, but there's nothing stopping you researching. There's nothing stopping you learning how to prompt and learning how to check it. I had a great story with ChatGPT about a month or so ago. It given me some research data, or it looked like research data, and I was like, that doesn't look right. So I went back and said, can you give me all the sources for this? And ChatGPT actually said, well, actually, I've amalgamated this from a range of sources. So this is the sort of the overall view that I get of what's going on. It wasn't real data at all. It had made it up.
Wow. So that means you have to teach AI how not to make up stuff.
Yeah. It's doing its best. It's what it's doing. You ask it a question, it's going out there and finding the best answer for your question. And if it finds 5 potential answers, then what it will often do is go, oh, well, it's sort of somewhere in the middle of these 5. And then it will produce something that it's completely made up. It's interesting and scary.
Yeah, it is. Because I'm just thinking about maybe students writing thesis or anything, and they have to do research and find real sources. AI is very good at generating things like this.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can get into trouble, just looking at that. So if I were to be entry level, what advice would you give me?
Yeah, I would always say you are accountable for what you produce. So whether you're handing a report to your boss, whether it's something, a piece of copy or content that's going out to your clients, you are accountable for it. You cannot say, but that's what ChatGPT said. So check your homework, make sure it's right, make sure it's your tone of voice, make sure it's personalised, so make sure it's validated.
That's good. And just looking at your profile, I noticed that you've, between September 2007 and May 2015, you were the Chief Commercial Officer of the White Company.
That's right.
And then you worked with David Phillips from March 2017 to 2019.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
What was that transition? Because I just saw that.
Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. So there's this fabulous career in product development, inventory management. I was managing a team of 80 people. I love the product. I love the brand. And all things come to an end. I was sick for a while, and then coming back into work, my heart wasn't in it in the same way, and I thought, no, I'm gonna go doing interim and consultancy kind of work, and that's what I did. And David Phillips was one of those opportunities, and so I was consulting for a variety of brands. One who was a complete startup, right the way through to Monsoon Accessorize. So it was just fantastic because you're doing things at different scales, and that was exciting. Most of what I was doing was about efficiencies in e-commerce. So how people get products online without typing the same information in again and again and again and again, and that was the main area that I was helping businesses with. But yeah, at the beginning of the pandemic wasn't very kind to consultants, and I found myself with all my projects frozen. I thought, oh, don't worry, they'll come back, but they didn't, because they had more, the brands had more critical stuff to do, and so I was left going, why? What am I going to do now? And unfortunately for us, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, my husband was made redundant at the same time, and his background was development, being a developer and e-commerce, and so
that's similar to.
Yes, but he's on the technical side, where I was always on the commercial side.
Oh right, what a combination!
Yeah, so we just thought, oh, actually, we could offer some real value here. We've both been running websites for people, building websites, running websites, optimizing them for 25 years on the other side of the fence. We've got some great advice to be able to give people. So that's why we decided to do what we do today.
So that means the idea of starting up a company was born out of necessity.
Yeah.
So if COVID didn't happen, you wouldn't have considered starting a company?
I was in that world of the idea of the independence was attracting me. You reach a point in your life where your parents are maybe getting a bit older. You've got you're being pulled in different directions, and being able to just say, right, okay, my son needs me today, or my mum needs me to take her to a hospital appointment today, and being able to be in control of my own destiny was a real pull. And I'd looked at my own business before, but I couldn't make it work in my own head on my own. And then when Peter was put in the same position as me, we were in the world of, well, actually, let's do this. And that's really that was really the catalyst.
Was it your idea or was it his idea?
We were both. I think. I don't know. I
Tricky.
think. Yeah. No, it's a good question. I think it kind of evolved. It evolved over the dinner table in terms of that. But what are we going to do? You know, because we went through the whole thing of do we retire? Do we just downsize? Do we go and get a little job somewhere where there's some money coming in while we work out what we do, while we keep looking? And we just thought, actually, do you know what? This is the kick up the backside that we needed to, just be in control of our own destiny.
Right, interesting. So did you both have the same energy towards this dream, this idea? Because I know it's always difficult when one person is ready and the other person's like, I'm not sure. So were you on the same energy level?
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Great. So what was the hardest part about starting a business?
We've both run big teams before, and it's that whole thing of right, okay, I need someone to do this. That would be me.
Exactly.
So initially that was the frustration, but then after that it was deciding who was going to do what. That started out because we both did our training with WSI at the same time. So we're accredited under WSI, so which means you've got to do their qualification to make sure you're doing things well and properly and to a high level. And we both did that, and so we'd come out of that with the same training. So we both sort of started in the same place, even though we got different backgrounds from each other. And we found ourselves competing with each other, and it was like we were running two companies instead of one. And we were both trying to do everything. And we just suddenly thought, this isn't working. Right. What are we going to do?
What made you think that? Sorry, do you have? Was there an incident that?
No, we were just getting frustrated with each other because it was, here's your client and here's my client. And say one of my clients, I'd got stuck somewhere with them, and it was somewhere within Peter's skill set to help. He would be like, "Well, it's your client." I'm like, "But you've got the skills to help," and vice versa. It worked both ways. So we decided that wasn't productive. And then we talked to a load of other husband and wife teams in the WSI network, and typically what they do is one person's what I call front of house, and the other person is back of house. So the person at the front is, they do the marketing, they do the sales, they do the onboarding, and then once the client's onboarded, they hand over to the operations person who does all the project management, the supplier relationships, all the accounting and all that side of things. And we sort of went out saying, well, that's what everybody else does, that's what we should do. And it put us both out of our comfort zone and out of our skill sets. So now we've come up with a different model, which is quite unique to us, but our clients seem to like it, where basically I tend to do sort of the marketing, then Peter does the sales, we do onboarding together. If it's like day-to-day project management, then I deal with all of that. But if it's problem management, then Peter deals with that. So
and that's agreed.
That's agreed. And basically what it means is that all of our customers get to deal with both of us. And they like that because we both bring different things to the party. And it means that we both know about all of our customers. So if something happens and one of us isn't there, the other one can easily pick it up and deal with it. And or if there's an opportunity, we'll put our heads together and say, right, okay, well, this client, they really should be doing this. How do we work with them? How do we explain this to them in the best way? So it's like two heads are better than one.
Yes. So for you and Peter, was that agreed based on strength? Because I'm looking at maybe a couple who wants to start something similar. How do you know where your strength really is, and how do you agree on maybe I want to be front of house or the back? How do you agree and have that conversation? What if you two have similar strength?
There's a lot of crossover.
Yes.
We're both sort of data-driven kind of people. That's both of our backgrounds meant that you do the research, you look at the data, and then you make your decisions from there. So there are certainly areas that we both like doing. But what we really did is we said, right, okay, what do each of us like doing? What do each of us best at? So where am I better than Peter, and where is he better than me? And that's an honest, hard conversation to have. And then we drew a map actually of all of the processes. So if you're in marketing, then pre-sales, then sales, then onboarding, all the different stages. And we mapped out all the tasks that had to be done. And then we basically said, right, okay, looking at who does what and does it make sense? Or is there anything that neither of us want to do? I mean, neither of us like chasing people for money, but someone's got to do it, you know?
Exactly, yeah. So how do you work that out then?
Yeah, so basically, Peter, he likes to hold the finances. So I mean, in that case, you deal with accounts receivable. That was an easy one.
Yes. Great. So you've talked about the hardest part of starting a business and also the hardest part of starting a business as a couple. For anyone out there who wants to venture into something similar with their partner, what approach would you recommend?
I would say start with a plan, start with a strategy. Don't just dive in and do let's do this. You need to be clear about who you are, what you stand for, who your target customer is, what makes you unique. And once you're aligned on all of those things, you can then design who does what in terms of the processes. Because until you've done all of that, you don't know what channels you're operating in. You don't know what your tone of voice is. You need to make sure that everything is lined up at the strategy level first. That the rest will follow. Right.
Have there been times when working together has tested your relationship?
Of course. I mean, when we first started, we were working out the same room. We worked from home. We were working out the same room at home, and then sort of dividing between work and home life just became really, really tricky. So I moved into a co-working space, and initially I moved into the co-working space 5 days a week. And what we found then is we ended up talking shop over dinner, which I just found really stressful. To me, dinner that's the time when you decompress and you chat. And I try and avoid talking shop over dinner. So then I moved into the co-working space 3 days a week and at home 2 days a week, and that worked well. My son left home about 18 months ago, so we had another spare room in the house, so I've moved back home. But so we're now working in different rooms, and if we're annoying each other, then we can shut the door. That's okay. But also, I have a cut off. I like to go to the gym at the end of the day, and when I come back from the gym, I'm not in work mode. So if Peter then comes down, will you read this or will you check that when I'm back from the gym? I'm like, no, it will wait till tomorrow. But that works hard for me. Otherwise, the line between your working relationship and your personal relationship becomes too blurred. So, I mean, different people have different ways. It could be walking the dog. It could be reading a book. It could be listening to music, whatever it might be. but you need to sort of give yourself like a mental cue to cut off from one into the other.
Yes. Does one person need to be the boss?
That's a really good question. We are in the world of we make decisions together. There are sometimes Peter is better equipped to lead the way. Sometimes I'm better equipped to lead the way, and you've got to trust each other in those areas. But yeah, it's we run the business together. We own the business together, 50-50. So yeah, what one doesn't have power of veto over the other, shall we say?
That makes sense. Okay, and then you've also said in the interview that your clients work with both of you. Mm. There's no picking and choosing. Why is that important?
It makes it quite unique because most digital marketing agencies of our kind of size, you would be brought on board by the partner, senior partner, and then you would be handed over to an account manager, and your day-to-day relationship would be with the account manager, and you may never speak to the senior partner who brought you on board again. Whereas all of our clients, the relationship is with us. Obviously, we have people who work for us, but they're doing the doing, and when they're doing that, it's checked by us. We then explain it to the clients ourselves. We take the feedback from the clients ourselves. We do the updates, monthly updates, project updates. We do that ourselves, and we think that's quite an important differentiator.
Great, and I've also noticed that your business is built around community. Mm-hmm. I have seen that the events you attend, the people you mention sometimes on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It sounds like it appears that the close friends, the people you know.
Yeah.
And you have that relationship with them. So, do you want to talk about that, the importance of having that community while running a business?
Oh, it's critical. It's critical. I know it's an old adage, but people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so being out there and getting people to get to know you, to understand where you're coming from, and understand what it is that you do. Because you're in it every day, you tend to assume that people know what you do. Well, they might know the job title, but they don't necessarily understand the problems that you solve, etc. And it takes actually quite a long time for people to understand. And there's a stat from BNI which basically says it used to be that you needed to have met somebody 7 times before it actually sunk in what it is that they do, and for you to start understanding whether you trust them or not. Today it's 13 times, so because we've got so many contact points which are digital contact points, and so much noise, it takes longer for people to build relationships and to really feel confident in others. So if you're out networking, then it's a long game. It's not, you can't expect to go into a room, say what you do, pick up a few business cards and think you're away. It doesn't work like that.
Wow. So you need to know how to network then.
Yeah. It's a really important skill.
13 times. Honestly, I've never heard that before. Even the 7 times.
Yeah.
So those 13 times include, we live in a digital age. Does it include online meetings, or does it have to be in person?
Yeah, no, it could include online meetings. But I'm not talking about someone reading your social posts. I'm talking about an interaction.
Yes. Okay. Would you recommend building a community before business, or building a business then joining a community?
You've got to have your business idea first, otherwise you've got nothing to talk to the community about. And which goes back to the strategy, who you are, what you stand for, what you do, who you're targeting, because those are the things that you need to get across to people in your community. And if you think about it, and your networking community, you may sell to them, you may not sell to them, but they have clients and they know people. So what you're doing is you're making yourself top of mind. So when somebody says to them, I've got a real problem, my website's it's getting loads of traffic, but nobody's filling in the contact us form. Who do you know anybody who can help me? You want them to go, yeah, that's what Nicky does.
Top of mind, yes.
So it's being top of mind rather than expecting to go in, shake hands, and come away with a deal.
Absolutely. Have you ever felt like giving up?
Yes. Running your own business isn't plain sailing. It really isn't plain sailing. You can be on a roll. You can feel like it's going really well, and then something unexpected happens to a client. Or sometimes someone somewhere lets you down. And that could be anywhere in the supply chain. And of course, you do everything you can to avoid that, but it does happen, and you've got to deal with it. And hopefully, you come out stronger and more resilient as a result of dealing with it. But it's not always easy.
True. So for digital marketing, I'm not sure. Did you start out in digital or was it offline?
You're asking me how old I am now. I started in retail before e-commerce. So my first job, I was a management trainee in retail, and then I moved into head office. And to show how old I am, we didn't even have personal computers, and so I learned my trade entirely manually.
Wow.
Literally, you write it by hand, add it up on a calculator, and then sort of hand duplicate forms over to people, either to sort of data enter or to go and pick from. And I mean, it's been incredible learning curve, because you've gone from that to having personal computers, to having full-blown ERP systems, to having multiple channels, to e-commerce suddenly becoming the beast it is today. I mean, in my lifetime, it has changed so much.
So how have you nudged yourself to continue to learn, adapt? And because you have over 7,000 LinkedIn followers, so how have you been able to key into every trend? Is it the people you surround yourself with? How do you know what to do? I
just think when you give up learning, then you're giving up on life. Use it or lose it.
True.
I think that's really important. And I suppose when I started my career in young fashion, where everything changed every 6 to 8 weeks. What was on trend last month may not be what's on trend this month. So I've worked for years in environments where things move, and sometimes they move subtly, and sometimes there's a bit of a quantum shift. So I'm not averse to that. That doesn't scare me. So like the whole AI thing you were asking about earlier, it doesn't scare me. I'm in the world of I've got to learn it faster than my customers are learning it, because obviously they're going to start coming to me and say, right, what do I do with this? So I need to have done my research. I need to have done my homework. I need to have tried different platforms. I need to I need to have a plan as to what to say.
Right. So how do you learn, especially for, let's say, social media strategy? How do you learn things like that?
You read a lot. I'm very lucky as being part of WSI. WSI do an awful lot of training and development with us, and ongoing training and development. And they're normally my go-to start resource, because what they will do is we have update meetings with them every other week. and they talk about what's going on in our space, what's
new,
what we should be looking at. You've got to go and look at it. You've got to get off your bum and go and look. But at least you've had a guideline as to, right, have a look here. This is changing there. This is important. This is a distraction. And so we find that very, very helpful in terms of steering us. And talk to clients, talk to other people in the business, and it's part of the networking conversations. It's not just about the sale; it's about what's going on around you.
True. So if you had a client who asked you to do something that you've never done before, maybe it's about starting a trend on social media. Maybe it's something you have. It could be experiential marketing.
Yeah.
But then it's a field you could play around. How would you respond to that client? Would you tell them, I don't do this? Or would you take the brief, learn how to do it, and then execute?
It depends if it falls within our wheelhouse or not. I don't believe in winging it. That's not professional.
Right.
So I'm very much in the world of, if it's in our wheelhouse and it's something that we haven't done before, we'll be open and honest and say, right, okay, Peter and I haven't done this before, but we have someone in our network who has. So let us go and talk to them, and then we'll come back to you with the best approach for this particular thing. Honesty is the best policy.
Absolutely. So if someone's watching and they're not sure how to start out in digital marketing, what's the first thing you'd recommend?
As a career in digital marketing. As a career in digital marketing, it's a big topic. So I'd be in the world of just understand the scope of the topic, because there is room for a lot of different skills. So if you think from websites through to social media, through to AI, through to data and analytics, different things will light your fire. And there's room for all those talents. So if you're technical, you may want to go and really focus on website development and coding. If you're a data marketing, but you love data and numbers and trends, etc., then data and analytics might be a good area to sort of start your work in. If you're a creative, it might be more about content and developing content for people. So go with what you're good at, go with what you love. There will be a discipline within digital marketing that applies to, and then go from there. And what you find is you go into your little niche, but then as you go up the rankings, businesses tend to niche more, but people tend to broaden. So start with your niche and then look for opportunities to learn the skills left and right of there, and then learn the next skills left and right of there.
Awesome. Then about small businesses, what is one small change a business can make today that could bring better results online?
The number of websites that I see where they try to be too clever and they don't actually say what they do and for who clearly on their websites, and the number of people who then try and get clever with where they put their calls to action, or how they use their calls to action. Don't be afraid. People scan websites, so
don't be afraid.
So tell them what it is you want them to do.
Right. True. So that's the small change.
Yeah, literally. I mean, the number of people who have got you've got a great big long homepage, and then the call to actions at the bottom. Well, chances are they won't have scrolled down the whole homepage. So you've got to tell them at the top. What is it? What do you want them to do?
Great. I've never thought of that, really. Just tell them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's either they want it or not.
Yeah.
I think that takes us back to what you said. Honesty.
Yeah.
The best policy, yeah. And also, you've helped lots of businesses grow. What's something that works every time, no matter the industry?
I would say it's about observing and listening. Your If you're not watching what your clients are doing and not listening to what they're saying, then you'll be blindsided at some point. Something will happen that you weren't expecting. So yeah, keep the conversation going.
Great. And then I'm not sure if you want to keep the same answer about this question. One mistake you see small businesses making again and again with their online marketing. I know you've mentioned the website.
Yeah.
Too many informations, and then at the end of it, the call to action, people might not read everything.
Yeah.
Is there another mistake you feel like some businesses are doing online?
Yeah, I mean, the most common one is the theory that you've got to be everything everywhere all at once. So basically, if you just think, right, okay, I'm in business, I've got to be on every platform. You know, I've got to be on LinkedIn, I've got to be on Facebook, I've got to be on TikTok, I've got to be wherever. Actually, then you'll be spending an awful lot of time creating and curating content, and it can be a time suck. So it's all about who are you talking to, what are you talking to them about, what's the most appropriate platform to be on to deliver that. You don't have to be everywhere.
Great. So how do you know what platform works?
Again, you observe your customers, and if you're a B2B business, probably LinkedIn is your friend.
Is that your favorite platform?
It's my favourite. Yeah, for us, it's my favourite platform. As you probably tell. But if you're in fashion, then you need to be on Instagram. You need to be on TikTok.
Right.
If you've got something that's like trendy and really relevant to Gen Z, then TikTok's your platform. Maybe avoid Facebook. If you want to talk to Middle England, Facebook is your friend.
Right. And then now, do you mean talking to or selling to?
Social media is all about talking to. Social media is about brand building. It's about capturing people's attention, capturing people's imagination. Yes, of course, you can have Facebook shops, Instagram shops, and obviously those are about selling. But the way that it works is your job is to stop the scroll. So when people are going through their feed, you've got to be interesting enough. They go, I'll stop and read that. So it's the primary purpose of social media is brand awareness. So that's you've got to be bearing that in mind.
Great. What's something people believe about success online that just isn't true?
That you can have an overnight success. It takes time to build a brand, and for it to have substance and authenticity. And you might have an early tickle.
Yes.
And that's great. That's a good sign. But if your business isn't built on solid foundations and a solid strategy and solid financials, then you're going to come unstuck. So it would be that.
So how would you define solid foundation for a business?
As I say, knowing who you are, what you stand for, your values, what it is what makes you different, what platforms you need to be on, and then having the right financial structure in place to be able to deliver that.
Yeah, you've mentioned that for a second time. Why? Why is that very...
Because businesses don't fail because of profit and loss. They fail because they run out of cash. So you need to make sure that you've got a good accountant on your side who's helping you plan your cash flow. If you've got a nice business that is even all year round, chances are that will be okay, apart from the VAT returns every quarter. But a lot of businesses have got seasonal peaks, and you often find that the outgoings go out before the incomings come in, and you've got to be prepared for that. Otherwise, you'll fail financially.
So for a startup, going back to running a business as a couple, let's say you're not able to hire that sort of expertise. Is there a way you can still deal with your finances?
Yeah, I mean, most good accountants will give you really good, solid tax advice. The other thing to do is to look at a fractional, a chief financial officer.
So that takes us back to having a professional there.
Yeah. And you know what? Even if you can only afford to have them, 2 days a month, it's better than not having that advice and guidance at all.
Right. That's a whole new touch point.
Yeah.
But you can actually have them for 2 days a month.
Yeah. And so it's a really good way of getting high-level skills at a fraction of the price that they would normally cost you.
Is being authentic in marketing still important?
Yes. Yeah. But that doesn't mean it's okay to shoot from the hip. Because you can easily upset people doing it that way. Authenticity comes from knowing your values and sticking to your values. It doesn't mean not being prepared.
Yeah, that's true. But what if it goes against the trend, really? Because people have different ways of saying things online, but then there's always a conversation that everyone will come to the table and agree to. For example, when it has to do with, let's say, DEI, for example, a lot of people come to the table and agree to this.
Yeah.
So let's say we have a man who's very qualified in the room and a woman who's very qualified. We need to consider the woman because men have always had this opportunity. Then you'd have people who say, no, if the man is more qualified than the woman and I prefer the man, I'll give it to the man. So that's you speaking from, this is my thought, I'm being authentic to my thoughts, but you're going against what the majority will think. So should you still play around authenticity in that scenario, or should you just let it be just to preserve your brand?
You used a good word in there, which is I prefer.
Okay.
And actually, in that case, you're not thinking about who is the best candidate for the job, who has the best skills. You're just thinking, I like that person a bit more than that person, and I'm more comfortable working with that person because they're a bit more like me.
Yeah. Well, sure, that counts though.
And that's unconscious bias, and that's something that HR businesses are sort of trying to weed out of the system. So people are making choices based on skills and attributes rather than quite like you. So yeah, it's important. But when it comes to authenticity, if I'm a big believer. I suppose I was lucky. I went to the kind of school that said, "You're as good as anybody else. You go out there, you be you. You'll be successful." And not everybody is as fortunate as that. But I am a big believer in, if you're going to be happy, you have to be you in your workplace. Because if you're trying to be somebody else, then A, you won't be happy because you've got to be on your toes all the time, and B, the people you're working with will smell a bit of a rat, that there'll be something off about you. So you've got to find places where you can be yourself. That doesn't mean don't learn. That doesn't mean be ignorant. That means your values, and then listen to the world around you so you can grow.
True. So have you ever faced any challenge personally trying to be yourself?
It tends to be when I first started. I mean, I first started work in the 80s, where it was all work hard, play hard. It's very, the senior level was very male dominated, and the women that got on behaved like the men. And I was sort of new into the workplace, and I'm observing this, and I'm going, this isn't what I taught. My school taught me that I can be me, and I stuck with that. And I would change a job if I was in the world of I'm in a culture here that doesn't fit with my values. This isn't the right job for me. I will move somewhere that does meet my values. And I've worked for some incredible people and some incredible businesses, not just women, men. I've had some fantastic bosses, but the ones I value are all the ones who said, right, okay, there's something about you. I'll give you some tram lines to work within, but off you go.
Mm-hmm.
You do your thing.
Right. Right. Many women running businesses try to do everything on their own. What would you say to someone who feels tired or stretched too thin?
Yeah, I like this question. I'd always say you can do anything, but you can't do everything. So choose what lights your fire, focus on that, and then see how you can outsource or automate or manage differently the rest.
Great. Have you noticed anything that women-led businesses do well when it comes to marketing?
And obviously, there are people, are all different kinds of people.
Yes, nuances there.
But women tend to be more naturally empathetic. So they tend to be good at the storyless telling, drawing out the pain points, just understanding what the underlying issues are. Whereas, guys tend to be, I don't want to put people in boxes here.
Right.
But if you're looking at tendencies, they tend to right, solution design. Yeah, how do I fix this? So I'm a big world of men and women working together is the best solution for everybody.
Yeah. Right. So how can a woman use that tendency in growing her brand online? That's on one part. And then on the other part, how can men and women working together harness their differences in growing a brand?
Yeah. In terms of harnessing empathy, I think that whole thing of getting to the customer pain point, or it isn't. They call it pain point in marketing. Sometimes it's just the customer ambition. It's their desire. How do you get there, and how do you deliver against that? How do you describe that in an empathetic way rather than, because if you do it wrong, it can sound like bullying.
Absolutely.
You don't want that.
Right.
So just understanding that, and then sort of carefully turning that into this is how we help. We understand you, and we've got a solution that will work for you. And here's the evidence, and here's what we want you to do about it. So that's the way of doing it. But in terms of people working together, I don't think it's anything to do with gender. I think it's to do with vive la différence. If you're in a room full of people who are all thinking the same, it doesn't matter whether they're empathetic or they're solution designers. You're working in an echo chamber. So, working with diverse teams with people who think differently, who've got different opinions to you, and provided you're a listening group of people, you will always end up with a better solution.
Great. And I have also noticed that these days you can always tell the face behind the brand.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a more recent strategy? I mean, we had that in the past, like Richard Branson and the rest. But then you could handpick them.
Yeah.
But these days, I think for me, it started with Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Owning the brand and being the face of the brand.
Yeah.
And becoming very active, talking about the brand, selling the brand as the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very common today.
Yeah.
So do you think it's a more recent strategy, and does it help? And can anything otherwise still work?
Yeah, I think it doesn't have to be about an individual, but I do think you have to have personality. and personality is most easily delivered through an individual. So that's why we end up there. But at the end of the day, there are thousands. I mean, retail is the biggest industry in the UK still. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of shops out there. So why do people decide to come and shop with a little local independent compared to, I don't know, the Primark down the road, or vice versa? It's because of the personality of that brand. It's because of what they believe that they stand for. It's about service delivery. So it's got to be what's unique about you, your business. It's giving it personality is really important, because it goes back to what I was saying earlier on. People do business with people.
Yes, I was going to chip that in. Yeah.
And so it's how do you give your business human traits, because that's how people connect. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah, because I'm just thinking, whenever I get your newsletter, you and Peter.
Yeah.
It's just the both of you I think about.
Yeah.
So doing business with you is like I'm doing business with the both of you. It's more personalized. So is that a strategy you came up with, or is it just happened? Did you think
it's not what we intended to be. The strategy was to set ourselves up efficiently and to grow based on those efficiencies, and we've just found what people like about us is the fact they talk to us. They don't get handed off to somebody else in the team. So yeah, that's the thing there, and it just means then we're in control of our brand personality as well. We're not delegating it.
Right. And then these questions are a bit more personal. What advice would you give your younger self?
I would say it isn't always going to be easy, and listen to your personal values, and if you're having a tough time and it's because your values are being compromised, it's time to move.
Brilliant. Just out of curiosity, why would you say that?
Because there are places where you're working, and you've got tough times, and maybe somebody else in the team is doing better than you and being recognised for that. Maybe you've made a couple of mistakes. We all make mistakes. So sometimes the reason you're not getting where you need to be is because of something you've done or not done. That's not a reason to get up and go. That's a reason to give yourself a good talking to and go and learn and get better. But if you're in a world where you're working with people whose values are moving away from your values, say for example, it's an extreme example, but you're in a culture that's ending up being a bit bullying, then you don't want to be there. It's time to say, actually, this isn't good for me. It's to get on. They will want me to behave like that, and I'm not prepared to behave like that. So I'm going to move.
Great. What is something you regret not saying to someone?
I am by nature a serial volunteer. So if somebody says to me, will you do? I'm looking for someone to help with this. My instinct is to say, yeah, I'll give it a go. So there are many times in the past where I've taken something on and thought, how did I end up here? So yeah, that's my advice to myself these days. When somebody asks for a volunteer, I say, it doesn't have to be you, Nicky. It doesn't have to be you.
Okay. What is the most painful thing anyone has ever said to you?
Oh, most painful thing, I would say. Or, do you know, it's way back in my early career when I'd put myself in for it's my very first promotion that I'd thought that I was going to get, and I didn't get it. And my boss said, well, you know, and I said, but I've done a good job. He said, well, just because you've done a good job doing what you're doing doesn't mean that we think you're ready for the next job. And that was like a real kick in the teeth. But I took from it, okay, all right, you want to get promoted, you've got to focus on the job above you, not just your job.
Right. Oh, because that's where you want to be. So
Yeah.
Focus on that.
Yeah.
Key learning. Okay. And then what's an experience that has changed your life?
There are two. One was I got really sick in 2014, and the treatment I was going through meant that I couldn't do what I did before. But when you come out of an experience like that, you think about what it is you want to do and how you want to spend your time, and it makes you think differently about what you want from your career. So that was really, really important. And the second one was setting up the business I'm in today, where I'm working for myself with my husband, and we've got complete control between us of our time, what we do, who we work with. We're not answerable to anybody other than ourselves, and I love that. I'm really enjoying that.
Have you ever turned down a client?
Yes.
Why?
Because what they were asking for wasn't going to work. So I'll give you an example. We had someone come to us, and they'd built their website and they wanted to do some SEO work on the website. And we looked at the conversion rate on the website, and it was 0.001%. So it was one of the lowest I've ever seen. And we said to them, well, we're happy to do SEO for you in due course, but until you've fixed the customer journey on the website and you're getting a decent conversion rate, it won't work. And they decided they didn't want to change their website. They said, but we want to take you on to do SEO, and so we won't take the business because it won't work. And
right.
we know that in 3, 4, 5 months' time, you're going to come to us and say, it's not working. Well, we're not going to do it. So we won't take business that we don't genuinely believe isn't going to work.
Great. So what, can you think of any projects you've worked on that you were most proud of?
I absolutely loved doing some work with a mental health charity. We built their website for them last year. They had this very grim, functional website that had been sort of built over time. That the customer journey was really confused. The imagery was poor. There were no calls to action. There was no donations page. So, they're a charity and there's nowhere for people to donate. So I really enjoyed working with this charity in terms of just helping them redesign the website, come up with a customer journey, help them with the whole donations process, to the point that we've submitted that particular website through to the WMA Awards this year. So fingers crossed.
Oh, great. And finally, what makes you confident?
Oh, that comes from within. Me. That's what makes me confident.
Okay.
Of course. You question yourself at times, but I'm very much in the world of I can do this, and if I feel like I can't do it, then I'll look for reassurance, or I'll say no, it's not in my wheelhouse. So yeah, but ultimately confidence comes from you.
Great. Thank you very much for stopping by, Nikki.
Thank you.